This is Brian Cantor. This is CCW, the 19th iteration of the premier, the leading, the most definitive, educational, informative, empowering customer contact event in the world. And speaking of all those adjectives, I'm joined by a man who embodies those when he thinks about ways to elevate the contact center operation. He's focused, he's written about, he drives change toward the future of the contact center. He's Jim Iyoob. He's from ETech, and he's here with us right now. How's it going, Jim?
Man, doing great, Brian. Thanks so much for having me. What an awesome event again.
Absolutely. So you've been having conversations. You're in our advisory board meeting. You're chatting with guests here. What do you see as the next step in the evolution of the contact center space?
So when you think about the next step in the evolution, you look back to the old days. Marketing controlled all the narratives. Transfer is now over to the consumer. The consumers will spend more money for a better customer experience. So what I'm hearing is people have to step up their game and deliver a better customer experience.
And what does that entail? Because that's easy to say, but I think people need action. They need steps. They need a blueprint.
That's a great point. So I will tell you, the blueprint would be is you have the largest data set on the planet in these conversations that we have in the call center business. Start using that data, make it actionable, and make recommendations to drive that customer experience.
So that's great, but how do you make sure that that gets in the right form at the right time? Because even saying data is actionable, that's still a pretty broad recommendation. So really making sure it tells a story, really making sure it empowers a moment as opposed to sort of empowering long-term understanding.
Great question. So that's really what ETech shines in. What we're shining in is taking that unstructured data, making it measurable, making it actionable, and making it effortless to the coach, to the agent, to the executives to see specifically what people are saying about your brand and how to fix it.
Huge, and it works on both sides of the coin because, as you said, effort for the customer often begins as effort for the agent. If the agent can't do what they want, if the self-service tool can't solve the problem, that's going to make a frustrating experience for the customer. The customer has to escalate, they have to wait, and things go wrong. So it's really about, I think, understanding what's going wrong on both sides of the interaction, both sides of the engagement, and then going from there.
Agreed 100%. And that's why I'm seeing some really cool stuff out recently on these bots and this automation. And I'll tell you, some of the things that you want to know, if my shirt comes in blue or red, absolutely can be done with a bot. And there's no reason you have to talk to anybody. And that's what I look at for myself personally. I would just love for me not to have to enter my 16-digit credit card number when I call my credit card company. And the first thing the agent says, can I have your 16-digit credit card number?
Yeah, it's not thinking about what the customer's really going through. It's assuming that things that make sense on paper, oh, you're authenticating, you want security. It's not understanding what really matters to the customer. The customer is not that skeptical. What they are skeptical of is a business that subjects them to that degree of effort, that subjects them to that degree of frustration, that doesn't value their time.
I agree 100%, couldn't agree more. Here's the cool part if you think about that. Customers have such a loud voice on social media, they tell you every day what they want. If companies would take that data and actually change the way they look at their business, customers will tell you how they want to be treated. Customers will tell you how they want to contact you. And customers will absolutely tell you what they don't like.
And more importantly, you have to look beyond just the surface because it's very easy to find data that can tell you what you want it to say. But when it comes to the customer experience, you need to find data that tells you what you need to hear.
That's a good point. I tell customers, who's defining what good success looks like from you? Is it your marketing team, your sales team, or is it your customer? Because your customer should be defining your quality. Your customer should be defining what they think is a good quality interaction, and your customer should tell you how great you're doing.
It all comes back to the idea it's not about treating your customer nicely, it's not about treating them well, it's about treating them the way they want to be treated.
If you think about it, yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, in the old days, we used to hire for empathy. And I don't take this wrong, there still has to be some there. The consumer of today, they want a controller. They want someone who's going to control the conversation and fix their problem, solve their issue, and that's what they need.
And I mean, you hear that all the time. We kind of mock the idea of an apology. We don't care about an apology. We want an action step. It's the same way you think about you have a problem. Yeah, it's great to pass the blame. It's great to find out what went wrong. But ultimately, your issue is how are we going to fix it? It's the same for the customer. They know you're sorry because they know that if they don't fix the problem, you're going to take your business elsewhere, and that's going to be really bad. Then they're going to be really sorry. So they get that. What they want to do, what you need to do is understand, here's what we can do, here's what we know you want, and here's how we're going to merge the two together.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, you're right. How easy is it to switch anymore? It's a global marketplace. In the old days, consumers, they didn't have the ability to switch as quickly. There's no pain associated with switching telephone carriers, as an example. No pain whatsoever.
Yeah, no barrier to entry means no barrier to switch. And I think that it's crazy. Now, all the threats the customer made, they used to be empty, now they're real.
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to tell my friends, oh, all 2 of your friends, big deal. Now it's all 10,000 of your social media followers, everyone who reads their messages as well. Suddenly that gets huge. Oh, you're going to take your business elsewhere? Where? I could type in product in Google and I'm going to find a million places that will do it and show that they value me when doing it. And if you don't appreciate that and start thinking about what the customer wants, maybe you'll keep them for right now, but the second a better option comes along, the second the customer becomes educated and aware of those opportunities, you're going to lose them.
Yep, and you think about the evolution of even the metrics we look at. In the old days of customer service, what did we measure? First contact resolution, maybe. Handle time. Then it went up to a little bit more, talked about cost to serve the customer. You know what people are looking at now? People are looking at now lifetime value of the customer. That's more important. CSAT, net promoter scores are important, but there's a lot more metrics people are measuring now.
And lifetime value is so underappreciated in this space and so valuable. The way I look at it is there are things you can do that sound great for the customer, but if you can't tie it to a real value, what's the point? We all want to be nice, but we all know that we have costs. So why not prioritize what really matters? The best part is when you do that, when you look at the analytics, when you focus on that prioritization, you actually get from point A to point B a lot easier because you don't have to throw everything under the sun at the customer. You just have to throw what's going to drive more value over time.
When you think about our whole life, I mean, really our jobs are still the same. I've been in the call center business 30 years. You know what's changed? Customers' expectations. That's why we have to change, because their expectations have changed of how they want to be treated and how they want to be engaged with.
And even that, I don't even know that they've changed that dramatically. What I think has changed is we realize that we have to listen to their expectations. I don't think the customer ever didn't care about effort, didn't care about personalization, but they knew they never were able to voice that, and we never had to listen. Now that they can voice it, we suddenly can't say, we're just going to subject them to bad customer service. We're just going to subject them to a bad contact center because now there's stakes to it.
Yep, you're right. And you know what? You got to put money onto it. And a lot of people miss the boat because they're focused on cost of contact. And I'll tell you, 86% of people will pay more for a better customer experience. And I talked about it when I was at my workshop. And I'll give you an example. I'm assuming you went to an amusement park once, twice in your world, right?
Once or twice.
Once or twice? Have you rode some rides? You went to Disney, I'm assuming?
Yeah. By the way, I was joking. Once or twice. I've been there 1,000. I used to go to Disney all the time.
So, have you ever bought a Fast Pass?
Yes.
You paid for the experience.
I paid for the experience,
and that's what people are missing because they're so focused on cost, where you really should be focused on lifetime value of the customer, because your cost will, over time, come back to you.
And the beauty of it, though, is that you just talked about paying for speed. I know it was a particular example, but if you think about the contact center, what people value speed. They value efficiency. A lot of what they're looking for is actually cheaper and more efficient and more operationally productive for you to provide. It's not like we're asking you out there to basically train people for these 9,000-hour conversations and invest in the most expensive things on the planet. We're saying fix these problems, make the investment now, save money in the long run, make money from those happy customers.
We agree. ETech's big on the long-term greedy versus short-term greedy. And the only way to be long-term greedy is to actually invest, change some of the processes and technology you use, and understand over time it'll pay for itself.
And you could be short-term greedy as well, because frankly, you fix a common problem in your experience, you look at your analytics, you fix it, suddenly your agents are happier, your customers are happier, and that can literally happen overnight when you do that.
And I'll tell you, the key factor that we believe is helping us with this transformation is the culture. Because you know what? That's another thing. The culture of the organization has to change in order to get those agents to be engaged with you and stay there.
And I know that you really mean that, because what's interesting about ETech, for those who aren't aware, even though they're classified as a solution provider within this organization, they routinely rank among the best end user brands when we look at our awards for things like training and development and culture. What they do as an organization is valued. They don't just tell you what to do, they just don't make technology. They actually try to embody the core principles.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. We spent a lifetime learning. We're a servant-led organization, and we believe our job as leaders is to serve others.
And it shows, through the award nominations, through the constant impact you make here, the work you've done, your position on our advisory board. Before we wrap up, Jim, I want to basically get to know, you've had the chance to talk to a lot of people. You've seen what other people are saying. What is that underlying message you feel everyone going home needs to know about the customer experience, about the customer contact function, to make sure that this event was truly worthwhile for them?
So I think the biggest thing I would say is come to learn, because I see some people I've never seen before. And then I see some people who've been here for 5-10 years. And the one common theme I heard is people were coming to our booth and actually saying, I didn't even know this existed. This is the first time I've been here in 3 to 4 years. I think the overlying message to me is be a self-learner. This is the best place in the world to come learn about new technologies, new ideas, and things you can take away from a workshop or one of the sessions of the great speakers to actually do something short-term and get that.
It's true, because you have every vendor, every speaker. Ultimately, what they're trying to do is find better ways to answer those forever questions. Those questions that are always going to matter.
Yep.
You want to find new, more creative, more efficient, more effective answers to those. Each year, we come closer and closer to those ideal answers. Organizations like you, or our keynote speakers, top vendor organizations, award winners, they're all built on that idea of, we know what we want to do. We want to build great relationships with customers. We want to make money as a result. And the goal is, how can we do that better than we did the day before, the year before, the month before?
Absolutely. And Matt Rocco, my president, and myself just published our 3rd book, and it really talks about that. And it's a short read. People can learn this. Delivering customer experience that matters.
That says it all right there, because you could think about what a customer might want, or you could deliver what truly matters to them. Jim, it's always a pleasure talking to you. It's always a pleasure broadcasting your insights, your passion for this topic to those listening, to the CCW community. It's always great to have you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. You have an awesome week.
And this has been Brian Cantor, live from the Mirage in Las Vegas. This is Brian Cantor coming at you live from the 19th Customer Contact Week here at the Mirage in Las Vegas. We're early in the going, but already filled with action, filled with insights, filled with a celebration of the very best in the customer contact space. And speaking of the very best, my next guest is someone who, his organization was a finalist for an award this year. They're constantly recognized for their commitment to customer centricity, their emphasis on agent centricity, and we have Jim Thomsen of SignZone. Jim, how is everything going?
Thanks, Brian. It's going great. It's been a great conference so far. It was a pleasure and an honor to be mentioned as a runner-up last night for our size. It's a small contact center.
Yeah, so what'd you think of Paul last night?
So funny. I've been trying my own ventriloquism, not to so much as success as him though, but
yeah, it was tremendous. He got a little irreverent, maybe not what I absolutely expected.
It's Vegas.
And really the awards themselves are just all about fun. It's all about recognizing what everyone does here, because at the end of the day, the emphasis on the customer is the heart of all business.
Very
and
true.
to be able to celebrate the hard work, the ideas, it's just such a special thing, and we're thrilled to see how that awards gala has taken off.
Absolutely, yeah. I had a small team here, and they thoroughly enjoyed it.
Now, speaking of your team, they're very important to you. Yeah. You are, above all, I've known you for a while, and every time we talk, your emphasis is always on that humanity component, the personal touch. So much so, in fact, that at one point you actually said you will never create a scenario where your customers won't be able to talk to someone. Is that still the case?
Absolutely. My belief is that the customer comes number one. And that interaction with the customer is really where the gold happens. It's not to say that there's not a place for technology, But for me, I'm a customer too. You're a customer of other companies. And when I call into companies that maybe have a overtly prolonged IVR messaging, hit 1 for this, hit 2 for that, you're authenticating all the way through. And by the time you get to a live agent, if you're lucky, then they ask you the same question oftentimes that you just gave the system once or twice. And if I might add, one thing we won't ever do as well is have scripted calls. So I view those as human bots. When I've called into companies, and you can tell right away that they're not even listening to me, they have to go through their written script. So in a short answer, yeah, very passionate about that interaction with the customer. That's really where, or what separates, I think, companies from growth to ones that become stagnant or can then lose that market edge.
You actually brought up a really interesting point because, a lot of times when we're hearing about new technology, we're hearing about advances in self-service, it's predicated on the idea of a quick, simple answer to your problem, and yet more often than not, it's not having that effect. One of our research reports actually revealed that one of the main reasons people still call is because it's a way to get a faster answer. And that's so counterintuitive to what all the thought leaders are saying, what all the technology providers are saying, but it sounds like that's something that you as a customer have experienced and something you don't want to happen in your environment.
Absolutely. And so as I was mentioning, it's not to say that there's not a place for technology. As an example of one of those places is, for me, it's paramount to listen to what the customer is asking for and have them dictate to you the tenor in which you interact with them. For some customers, they're very capable wanting to go to a website, our website, and get an order status. Or for some customers, if they want to self-select, to get an update message to them, email form or text message to let them know. Others want to call in for that, as you said, quick answer. Maybe they didn't get their email, maybe they want a quick update, but not to have a cookie cutter to a customer says the only way you can get information is one way. You want to be able to have that through an omni-channel presence in multiple ways and let the customer dictate.
Yeah, so it's about making sure that you have the option. So it's not forcing them to talk, it's not forcing them to go through the deep conversation,
right,
but you don't want to strip them of that opportunity.
Absolutely right.
Now, that sounds great, but if it could be very inefficient. I mean, especially when you're talking about a personal touch, you're talking about not scripting everything, you're talking about escaping that transactional mindset, that may be tough to scale in some environments. So how do you sort of manage the efficiency component, the performance component, while still maintaining that human touch?
There's one more component, customer loyalty. So what we found is having that in-depth partnering with our customers has increased our customer loyalty exponentially. So there are ways to manage it, but the other part of the equation, I just wanted to point, at least from our perspective, has been and is the customer loyalty. When you have a customer who's loyal for you, that customer then tells other customers and so forth and so on. For us, however, when it does come to the human capital, there are some metrics that we do look at for our phone agents. Those are schedule adherence. So we want people to obviously be on the phones when we tell them to be on the phones. But however, we're not going to tell them that they have to trim their call at a certain call length. Again, it comes down to having the customer dictate to them the tenor of the call and just basically navigate through there.
And we've spoken about that. It really goes hand in hand oftentimes. There's this fear that if you take away average handle time as a metric, if you take away efficiency, then suddenly agents are going to be having 7-hour calls. In reality, customers don't want that.
No.
Agents, when they feel like they have the power to really connect with the customers, more often than not, you're not going to be left with these long calls. You're just going to be left with a call that's exactly what the customer was looking for.
Absolutely. I can give you a case point to that one. Several years ago, we didn't have a workforce management tool in place, and we didn't have all the metrics that we could use. So we had used calls per day. I know it's a terrible metric as a sole performance for an agent on their productivity. And our call lengths were at a certain level that we knew were maybe okay. When we switched and we added our workforce management software, and we took away the calls per day and just simply went to schedule adherence, what we found, ironically, is that our handle times decreased, agent engagement and happiness with just their job because they weren't being counted for the number of calls increased, the experience on the phone improved because guess what? At the end of the day, if an agent's looking at their call count and saying, I need to pound through 3 or 4 more calls by the end of the day here, they're not delivering great experience at all. They're just hammering through it on a very quick call. In today's world, our handle time is lower, and the customer experience scores have increased by 25%. Now, that doesn't happen just by simply waving a magic wand. It's enabling our agents with those tools firsthand to say, we trust you. You're the most important part of our company and that interaction with our customers.
And that trust, as you mentioned, doesn't just lead to better performance. You talked about the impact on the agent experience as well.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that's very valuable to you, but I want to bring up, because I've been on some of these site tours, and a common question everyone asks is attrition rate. And whatever they hear, no one seems, I mean, if it's low, they're really impressed. But even if it's really bad, they've generally been okay with that because there's this feeling that it's call center work. People are going to leave. You know, you just have to deal with that. I don't get the impression that's your mindset.
Not at all. I've seen firsthand. So prior to my current employer, I worked for a company, and a couple of our sites had about 120% attrition rate. So yeah, we're filing through the entire workforce in a given year. Well, we employed engagement activities, and at SignZone, engagement activities really recognizing employee performance. We've seen our attrition rates at SignZone decrease. I saw it at my former employer where that was 120%. That went down to 40 and then ultimately 32%. A market have increased in that arena. I don't believe at all that high attrition rates are the standard that we should expect. If you have a high attrition rate, there's usually other mitigating factors, unengaged employees, and then as an outcome, oftentimes a poor experience on the phones with your customers. There's a couple of things that we've done at SignZone to really heighten and recognize employees, and that's really the key part from my perspective is recognition. So we have a couple of programs. We have the High Five program, and that is a 3x5 note card that has a picture of a hand. And for activities that we recognize from a performance standpoint by agent, myself or the supervisors are enabled to then go sign an agent's high five card, so sign a finger of their high five card. And it can be for great experience on the phone, great schedule adherence, you name it. It can be a number of different metrics that we look at, and we do it the very next day, or even that same day, depending on what the performance is. So it's recognition that's timely and relevant, and at the end of that time period, once an agent has their full high five card signed, they get to redeem it for a gift card. And that happens weekly.
And then you mentioned there's another program as well.
There is. So the other one that we have is called the WOW program. And that one is a similar takeoff to the high five. It's a golden high five lapel pin. And what we look for there is legendary customer experiences on the phone. Agents can nominate their calls, as well as we have our supervisors will screen calls as well. And we'll go through it and review candidate calls that we believe, or even an agent believes it could be a legendary call. If it is, then what we do is we give them a fully signed high five card and that golden lapel pin, which is a key part here. And then what an agent does is they take that golden lapel pin when they receive it and they put it on their cue ball right by their nameplate. And so now when I walk through the hall of our service agents, there's a lot of competition, a lot of healthy competition to try to be the one that gets another legendary customer call, gets another pin by their nameplate. And you can see it's almost like on the football helmets you see in college where you'll have the little symbols on them. So what we've been able to do in that culture is turn it from I'm going to take X number of calls to I want to deliver a legendary call on every call. I want that lapel pin as a sign of honor, as a sign of recognition.
Give me an example of one of these legendary calls.
So recently we had a customer call in, and they were navigating our website, but they weren't sure exactly what might be the best product for them. Okay, and we're a B2B company, so we're selling to our customers who then sell to other customers. So our calls are really sales training opportunities. So our agents are giving information about good, better, and best. And the customer called in, wasn't sure what to do, and our agent spent 12 minutes on the call, gave them good, better, best, gave them other options that they should consider. The customer was so thankful for the time spent, because they're not used to that in other businesses, where someone will take the time and have the depth of knowledge to really arm our customer to then go sell and be successful to their customer. And that's really what we view ourselves as, partners to our customers, to help them succeed. When they succeed, we all succeed.
And what I like about your entire program here is it really has a twofold effect. I mean, obviously, or really threefold. You have employees feel valued when they have the opportunity to sort of get incentivized. You're recognizing the right behavior, because oftentimes one of the big challenges in the contact center space is we all preach customer centricity, we all preach connecting with customers, and then you don't follow through that way with how you manage, how you measure, and you obviously are taking care of that. And then finally, by incentivizing good behaviors, you're going to drive good behaviors. So it seems like a win-win-win situation for you.
Really is. We have, I'll say, our employee engagement scores have gone through the roof. Our employees have voted us as one of the best places to work. And so you're absolutely right. When it comes to the front line, that engaged employee who's empowered, has the knowledge and the training and the freedom and the trust from the leadership to take care of our customers day in, day out, it's been a successful formula that we're going to continue to underscore years to come.
So you went from honorable mention last year to runner-up this year. How are you going to get that victory next year?
You know what? It's really just an honor to be part of the finalists, I'll say. I'd be lying to you if the competitive part of me doesn't want that first place too. But you know what? We have a great team, and we're going to stay focused on taking care of the customer and let everything else fall into its place. So our eye is right on that customer lens and that customer experience, and the things that motivate us really is hearing from our customers that they enjoy working with us. And so in the next year, I hope to be sitting next to you talking about that first place that we just took last night. But at the end of the day, it's an honor for the teams, honor for the whole company to be recognized in this manner. And it really comes from our focus on the customers.
Well, I think you said it very well, Jim. I think, what's so great is everyone there, from honorable mention all the way to those first place winners, they have all these different ideas. They don't all match. But I think what everyone shares is that we're doing this for a reason. Yeah. We're doing this to make our people better and happier. Yeah. We're doing this so that they can, in turn, make our customers happier and more loyal. Yeah. We're doing it because we understand that the contact center is not a necessary evil. It's not something that you have to put up with. It really is your instrument to a successful business. And when you let that define what you're doing, that is where the victory is going to come from.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, this has been a pleasure speaking with you, Jim. It always is. It's always great to see that continued emphasis on connecting, personal touch, humanity, using technology as a vehicle to drive that connection and not eliminate that connection. It's always great to see your progress. Thrilled to have you here. Enjoy the rest of the event. And this has been Brian for CCW Digital.
Thanks, Brian.